Dr. Devraj, sir, shall we start?
Yeah, I think we can start it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the second session of Pushpagiri Medical College webinar series being conducted as a part of the Animal CME program from Department of Community Medicine. Our theme is Resolution of Paradox, Solving the Conventional Concepts of Liability and Validity. The series has 4 sessions. One session was completed last Friday, taken by Dr. Manasi Ravindranath. The topic was Understanding the Lab Test in the Wake of COVID-19 Pandemic. She gave information regarding the various lab tests that has been used for diagnosing COVID-19. For those who have missed, the session is available on Pushpagiri Facebook page. Kindly see it. As I've said before, our series have 4 sessions. Today is our second topic, liability versus validity, often a trade-off, by Dr. Devraj R., Assistant Professor in the Department of Community Medicine, Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram. He has worked as an assistant professor in the Government Medical College in Idukki, also worked in Amrita Medical College, Cochin. He was Assistant Nodal Officer of COVID vaccination at Government Medical College, Thiruvananthapuram, Special Charge at Government Medical College, Alappuzha for COVID-19 control activities. State level trainer for the training of trainers at Panchayat, block and corporation level for Ardhram mission implementation. Has taken part in outbreak investigations for scrub typhus and also worked on the development of dengue action plan, both district and state level. It is our privilege to have you for this session. I welcome Dr. Devraj, sir. Please leave your comments and questions in the comment box. We will discuss it at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. First of all, I thank Pushpagiri Institute of Medical Science for giving me this opportunity. Also, I thank all of you who have joined this afternoon session to listen from me about the reliability and validity concepts. So, shall I share the slides?
Yes, sir.
Is the slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so shall we start?
Yes, sir, you can start.
Okay, so let's start with today is the World Pneumonia Day. It's 12th of November. And for those of you who love birds, today is also a bird watching day, the National Bird Watching Day. And we are here today at this hour to talk about reliability and validity. Okay, so first of all, let me tell you, this is a very detailed concept, and those of you from other departments and those of you who have just joined the course and all, many of the terms might be not familiar to you. You might know a bit from here and there. First I thought I will keep it very simple and just talk about the basic concepts. But I don't want to misguide you by telling you that this is very simple and this is all about it. So what I've done is I've included other things also in the slides. I will share the slides with you so that it will help you to read more and more about this. Ultimately, I'll be dealing with the very basic concepts of reliability and validity. It's essential for you. And all other topics, I will be just talking about them so that you know there are things like that. And as per your interest and your time, you can later read about it in detail. Okay, so when we start with reliability and validity, I would like to introduce one term to you. And that is psychometrics. Okay, how many of you have heard this term before? Is there anyone who heard about psychometrics? So psychometrics is the field of mathematics that is concerned with the statistical description of instrumental data as variables and with the inferential statistical description of the relationships between variables. So I know it's a very complicated definition. So ignore that. Just look at the second point. Psychometrics is usually concerned with measuring an individual's physical characteristics, individual's ability, perception of change, pain, types of functional ability, and all. So whenever we want to measure some things about an individual, some characteristics of an individual, then psychometrics is the term we use there. And there are many psychometric properties. So now we have to think about how we go about measuring an individual's physical characteristics, or say his ability or his perception, that is his attitude, the way he thinks about some things, the way he utilizes healthcare, the way he seeks healthcare from hospitals, where does he go, government college or private college? How do we analyze all that? We will be asking the individual, and we will be developing questionnaires. The questionnaires will have some items, and based on his responses to those items, we will be rating him. Okay, so we will be applying this to, say, in questionnaires, or also to some outcome measures, measuring his blood sugar level, measuring his height, measuring his weight, any character or any property of an individual. You might also develop some clinical tools, some clinical scales, or we will be devising some special tests and all. So using all this, we are trying to find out the truth about an individual. Truth means which actually it is. Like, say, somebody who has a hemoglobin level of 12.5, the truth about him is his hemoglobin level is 12.5. But we don't know. How do we do that? We take some blood, we use maybe Thales hemoglobinometer or automated hemoanalyzer, and we come to a value. It might be 12.5. Sometimes we get 12.4. Sometimes we get 12.3. And so we are trying our best to explore his hemoglobin status and to find out that his value is actually 12.4. That is the truth about him. And say if it is hemoglobin, we can directly do some lab test, find out the value as 12.5. Say whether we want to discover whether he is depressed or not. Do we have a tool as such, say a laboratory test to analyze his depression status? If you take some blood, run some lab test, would you be able to say that he is depressed or not? So there the idea is different. So there we have to define what is depression. And we have to develop a questionnaire which will let us know whether this individual is depressed or not. Now, one questionnaire we have is the PSQ-9 questionnaire. So there we are asking him 9 questions. The PHQ-9, that is the Patient Health Questionnaire 9. The PHQ-9, if we are actually asking him 9 questions, and based on his responses, we are going to say whether he is depressed or not. So those 9 questions should be tailor-made, or say clinically cut, so that the responses to this 9 question will help us to differentiate depressed people from people who are not depressed. So there first we have to construct the idea called depression. Then we need those 9 questions in that questionnaire, which will tell us all about depression. And the yes or no to those questions, or based on the answers, now we are going to say whether a man or a woman is depressed or not. So there it is a bit more difficult. So to all these scenarios, psychometric properties are applied. So when we look at what are psychometric properties, there was a study called Postman study. They defined the things based on this. So you look at this slide, you will get confused. So this is there only for your reference. Don't worry. I just need you to say that the Postman defined the psychometric properties to be applied to these questionnaires and psychometrics as reliability and validity, basically. Reliability they have defined as the degree to which the measurement is free from measurement error. That is the basics of it. We will come to it in detail, and internal consistency was also slotted along with reliability. I will deal with that. And a measurement error and all they have put in terms. You just ignore all this, don't worry, just refer to this in future. And validity, they said they have things like content validity, face validity, construct validity, and structural validity and all. Then hypothesis testing as item construct validity. Then they said there are things like cross-cultural validity, criterion validity, responsiveness, and interpretability. We are not going into all that, don't worry. We will be dealing with only those things we need. So this was what they said. We need all these items, the psychometric properties that should be applied to a psychometric analysis. That is, whenever we measure the physical or mental characteristics of an individual, or say a group of individuals, and we need some results, then these are the things we should be keeping in mind. So now, starting from the first session where we actually learned about diagnostic tests, now we are going into how do we interpret the diagnostic test. That is basically what is required of me in this session, the validity and reliability of the diagnostic test. So now coming to that angle, how do we order diagnostic tests? So I will give you an MCQ. Option A is to diagnose a disease. Option B is to exclude a diagnosis. Option C is to help develop a prognosis. Option D is to screen for a disease. Option E is because we always order these tests in these sort of patients. Option F is the lab fellow sends a cake every new year. And option G is to pay off the cost of the machines. So what is the answer? Yes, you can unmute and tell me the answers you think which are right.
Option A, sir.
Okay,
Option A.
Anything else?
Option A.
You can answer, the answers are multiple response types. So you can choose any number of answers.
A, B, C, D.
Yeah, right. A, B, C, D are all right. Don't go with E, F, and G. Sir, grave ethical concern there. So it could be A, B, C, or D. That is, we might be wanting to diagnose a disease, or we might be wanting to exclude a diagnosis. We might be wanting to help develop a prognosis, and we might be wanting to screen for a disease. So in all these cases, we'll order diagnostic test. When we do it for screening purposes, the test will be a bit different, and we call them the screening test. Okay, so whenever we do this, we have to keep these three axioms in mind. Now onwards, whenever we order diagnostics, just always keep this in mind. Clinical data obtained by history and examination are far more powerful than data obtained from diagnostic laboratory tests. Usually we go the other way around. We don't trust ourselves, we go with the lab test. If the lab test says he is positive or negative, then we go by that. The doctor's input will be very low. This is actually the other way around. And the second maxim is absolute diagnostic certainty is impossible to attain, regardless of how much laboratory data are obtained. And the third one is a test is of no use if it doesn't influence the clinical decision making. Okay, like we always say for the viral diseases, like you test for the virus, you get it as positive, the management is not changing at all. So then should we do that test? In pandemic, it is a different scenario. In COVID also, we might think that if we get the result as COVID positive and it is category A, we are not changing the course of treatment, then why do that test? There the reason for testing is different because we don't want the disease to spread. And we are taking a lot of actions, even if we are not taking the individual patient treatment to some change, we are actually doing many other things like source tracing, contact tracing, and so many other things. It is changing a lot there. But ideally, the screening also we say if the disease does not have a treatment, don't screen. The same way, if the clinical decision is not going to change irrespective of the test result, the test is of no use. So these three maxims should be kept in mind. Especially, I would say, when we are going for this whole body checkups without any symptoms, always keep this in mind. So now we are going a bit higher. Among the psychometric properties we discussed, what are the operating characteristics for a laboratory test? Which of those properties do we use for a laboratory test? So the answer is simple. We go with reliability and validity. Now in this context, think of reliability as repeatability and validity as accuracy. Okay, these two terms, keep it in mind. When we talk about reliability, we are talking about the repeatability, and when we are talking about validity, we are talking about accuracy. And under the validity and the accuracy, we have 4 things to keep in mind. This is very important. The take home for this whole session is this one slide. If you know these things in this slide, this session you attended has been useful to you. Sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, and negative predictive value. I will go into detail into all this. I'm just introducing this thing to you now. So this is one figure you have to keep in mind. Say this is a bullseye thing and you are hitting it. If you look at the first figure, you can see the central bullseye is paired and all the points have been randomly scattered on the upper half anywhere. So I said, when we are repeating this, we are not getting the same values, and also it is not accurate. So it is not accurate and the repeatability is also not same. So this is unreliable and invalid, or say invalid. Second figure, that is on the right of the first figure on the top. If we see, we have some hittings in the bullseye and some very close to it also. But overall, when we repeat, the values are all over the place. So this is unreliable, but it is somewhat valid. Even if the validity is low, it is somewhat valid because sometimes the bullseye is hit. Look at the third figure, the one on the left down. All the values are returning around the same value. That is, all the hits are around the same value, but nothing is near the actual true value, which is the central circle. This is reliable. Reliability is high, but it is not valid. Look at the fourth figure. All values are within the central figure and the repeatability is also there. When repeated, it gives the same value. Everything is in a circle. This is a reliable and a valid test. Okay, just keep this diagram in mind. This is all about reliability and validity in short. If it is valid, it will be closer to the true value. And when we repeat, we will get the same value again and again. It is reliable also. Reliability means the values are all close together, but all of them are far from the real value. So it is reliable, but not valid. But if we have all the values when repeated as same itself and all those values as close to the true value, then it's a test that is reliable and valid. Okay, is this figure clear? Does anyone want me to say this again? Is this idea clear about repeatability, reliability, and accuracy, validity?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm moving forward. If any of you don't understand anything, that is, these slides are important. If I ask you, did you understand? That means that slide is a must-know slide. So if any of you don't know or not able to interpret anything on that slide, you can interrupt me and ask me to repeat again. Okay. Sole purpose of this session is to let you gain something. So if you are not gaining the point that I'm intending, then I'm very much willing to repeat it. Okay, so we are moving forward. So when we apply this to a test, this will somewhat translate to this. Say of 40 is the true value. Now I will give you 30 seconds to look at this figure and have your own interpretations, then we will discuss. Look at test A, B, C, and D of 40 is the true value, and the curve is actually the values we have got when you are repeating this test again and again. Just look at this for say 20-30 seconds and have your own interpretation. Yes, so any of you wants to volunteer and explain this figure to me and to everyone? This is exactly what we saw in the previous slide, but this is translated to a real test scenario. That's the only difference. Anyone?
The graph mean nearer to 40 will give the near accurate value, and the graph having wide and narrow standard deviation will give the more valid value. So, so though both the wide value, that is A and C, both are very much wide, so both are unreliable. And for B and D, B is far away from 40, so it's reliable but inaccurate. But D is near to the 40 and with less standard deviation, so it is more reliable and more accurate.
Yeah, Charanidhar Singh, right? Very good. Exactly, that is what I wanted from you. Okay, so he's absolutely right. Look at test A, value 40 is touched, but the values are spread over a big area. That is, the values are ranging from say around 37 to 50 nearly. So it's a big spread value. When we are repeating it, we are not getting the same values. So, and the real value, if you look at the peak value, that is also somewhere near 45. So it is not reliable and not accurate. Test B, it is reliable because all values are about 45, maybe from 3 to 47, but all those values are far away from the actual value, which is of 40. So it is reliable because the repeated values are giving the same thing, but it is inaccurate. Test C is accurate because the value 40 has been touched by the most number of observations, but the range is very high. So the repeated values are not in near to 40. So it's unreliable, but it is accurate. D, it is very reliable because the repeated values are just above 40 and after 40 is 38 to 42, and it's accurate also because it is in or around the truth, which is 40. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now we are going into reliability. Now we'll be dealing with reliability and validity in detail. So now we have an idea about what reliability and validity is, right? So when we are going a step higher, we will be seeing what reliability and validity are. Okay. So reliability, the definition of the word reliability is the quality of performing consistently well. That is repeatability. Even if you repeat the thing, you will get the same value. That is, say one person's hemoglobin value is 12.5, repeat the test, you will get 12.5. Repeat again, you will get around 12.5, 12.5 again. So that is called reliability. That is, consistently the test is returning same values. So just the key to that is, say, remember it as repeatability. We have 4 types of reliability basically. I have put it as 1, 2, 3, 3 because even if you remember the 3, that is enough. The parallel forms reliability is not basically dealt in any classes, and you will only get 1, 2, and say internal consistency as the main reliabilities. So remembering 4 is good, remembering 3 is also good. I just want you to remember this slide. That's why I made this 1, 2, 3, 3 thing there. Okay. So 1 is over time reliability. It is called test-retest reliability. 2 is across different researchers reliability. That is inter-rater reliability. 3 is parallel forms reliability. It's across forms reliability. And 4, or say another 3, is across items. That is internal consistency. Okay. So what is this? This is easy for you to understand as 4 figures. Say test-retest reliability or the inter-rater reliability are the first 2 figures. Here you have an attribute, and there is say customer 1, customer 2, or say patient 1, patient 2. This says customer 1 because I have taken this slide from the Business Over Broadway group. So they are using this for their business models. That is why they are saying customer. You can think of it as patient. There is an attribute, so the patient 1, patient 2, or if it is a researcher, say you can also think it as researcher 1, researcher 2. If they are filling a form or some scenario like that. Okay, so the same customer, or say the same patient or the same individual, when he repeats the test, say time 1 and time 2, if he gets the same value, that is called the test-retest reliability. Or say if there are 2 patients and there is one attribute that the same attribute the 2 patients are dealing with, or they are giving the answers to some question which should be answered same as both, then that is called inter-rater reliability. That is, the rater is changing there and the values should be reliable. If it is reliable, if both of them are giving the same values. The parallel forms reliability, or say a survey forms reliability is another term that they use for that. That is, if they are filling 2 questionnaires, or say 2 different surveys are filled by 1 patient, if the same question is repeated, that is the same kind question. Here basically 1 question means 1 idea, 1 definite idea that is to be extracted from the patient. If that remains the same, then the patient should actually give it as same in both the surveys. That is called parallel forms reliability. And there is internal consistency reliability. That is a very important thing here. That is a customer 1, customer 2, customer 3. That is one scenario. And also if you're asking the same customer, that is say customer 1 about 3 different attributes, or say 2 different attributes, and the third one depends on that, then it has to be the same internal consistency. I know this was a bit difficult. When I explained it, I will make it very simple. Say 1 question in the questionnaire is, do you like crowded places? Do you visit crowded places? If the answer is say no, say there is another question in the same questionnaire which says, how often do you visit malls, shopping malls? And say he has answered twice weekly, then there is a bit of confusion. He is going to a crowded place, say 2 times or 3 times per week. But for the question, do you visit crowded places? He has given the answer as no. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
So it is basically not internally consistent. Internal consistency is the consistency between the items of the same questionnaire. Or say we are actually trying to get an idea from 1 patient. He is answering 3-4 questions to us so that we can get the idea from it. But what happens is he has been giving 2 different answers to the same idea, which results in lack of an internal consistency. Okay, that is the questions, any number of questions in a questionnaire that is bringing out the same idea should be answered similarly. Is it clear? Okay, shall we move forward?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, reliability, the properties of reliability, or the types of reliability, as they say, one is internal consistency, is already discussed. The others, they are giving us stability and equivalence. The test retest reliability that we discuss comes with the stability of the test. It is given as the stability of a test. Just remember test, because we are basically going to deal with only the test here. And questionnaire could also be thought as a test. So is stability. Stability is what we get from the test retest reliability. It is consistency of repetitions, that is how stable the measure is throughout time. Okay. Example, if an individual concluded a research and repeats it in a few days, similar results are expected. And what you have to think is, statistical test for this property of reliability, we are using something called the intra-class correlation coefficient, or the ICC. Just know about it. We can read about all these things in future when we are going deep into all these things. Now just know that there are things like this. Internal consistency, it evaluates if the domains of an instrument measure the same characteristic, that is the average correlation between all the construct items. As we said now, we are asking about, do they visit crowded places? All the questions dealing with the crowded places should be answered in a similar way, so that there is a correlation between these items. That is, statistically, they say at least a correlation of 0.8 is required between similar items. Example is, if an instrument assesses satisfaction at work, all the items of a certain domain must measure such construct, not a different one. That is, if you are measuring the satisfaction at work, all the 9 questions or 10 questions in the questionnaire should be about satisfaction at work, and they should be consistent among them. That is, if one person says that he loves staying at the workplace even after say 8 p.m. at night, and at another question which asks him about the duty hours, he says he is not happy with the long duty hours of till 8 p.m. and all, that is internally not consistent at all. So internal consistency, the statistical test we usually use is Cronbach's alpha for continuous variables and Coder-Richardson for dichotomous variables. Dichotomous variables means variables which are like yes or no, or say right and left, that is which has got two values. For the test, say positive, negative, it's a dichotomous variable. And then there is something called equivalence. That is the inter-rater variability, also the inter-observer reliability that we discussed now between two raters. That gives us the equivalence. It is the concordance degree between 2 or more raters concerning the scores of an instrument. 2 qualified raters fill in the same instrument are supposed to obtain the same score. For measuring that, the inter-observer reliability, we have something called the kappa statistics. So, reliability, you know what reliability is, and now you just look at the statistical test for reliability, that is inter-class correlation, Cronbach's alpha, Coder-Richardson, and also kappa. This is all you need to know about reliability. Anything in detail we can learn later. How to do this? I mean, if we need to know how to do or say solve problems, so say the practical issues using intra-class correlation, Cronbach's alpha and kappa statistic, we need to have another session on advanced statistics. we might be able to arrange that if all of you are willing for that. So now for this class, for reliability, this much is enough. So next, we're moving to validity. So reliability is clear, no? Shall I go into validity?
Okay, sir.
Okay. What is validity? Validity refers to how accurately a method measures. That is, how accurate is the measurement we are making, and what are we measuring? What we are intending to measure. That is the truth. So how accurate are our values to the truth? That is validity. Just as a one word to remember, just remember accuracy. That is how accurate our values are. Now, we are again coming to the another study which gave us the types of validity. This is also for the reference purpose. A simple slide will be there for you to take home. This is for reference. And content validity is the first type of validity. It's the degree in which a test includes all the necessary items to represent the concept to be measured. That is, earlier we said about the workplace satisfaction. If that is what we are measuring, all the necessary items to measure the content validity, always to measure the workplace satisfaction will give us the content validity. Are all the contents valid with what we are going to measure? That is, an instrument that assesses the satisfaction at work must include not only work satisfaction but other variables related to it, such as salary, promotions, relationship with co-workers, among others, and also all these are factors which influence the workplace satisfaction. So all these variables, are they related to what we are measuring? Are all such variables included? It is also to be taken into account. Okay, so for this, to know about what this is, that is, the idea of workplace satisfaction is basically a construct. That is, we are constructing the idea of what is workplace satisfaction, and then we are understanding or say analyzing what are the contents I need to build this construct. So we need qualitative research approaches there to identify this. Qualitative research per se includes things like focus group discussions, in-depth interviews, and all. So we use all those things to understand whether we are getting our construct right. And content validity quantitatively is measured by something called the content validity index, and it is a different thing. You don't need to go deep into that. Then the second thing is criterion validity. That is, it is assessed when a result can be compared to a gold standard. That is, say for tuberculosis, we are having a new test called say CBNAT or another test like that, and we need to know how good is this test, how accurate is this test. What we do, we will compare it with the gold standard. The gold standard will be say something like a liquid culture. Culture is always the gold standard for any infectious diseases, and culture will tell us whether somebody is positive or negative. Then we look at the new test results and compare it with the gold standard, and we see whether it is valid. That is called a criterion validity. And among criterion validity, you can have the concurrent validity and the predictive validity. Concurrent validity is when we are using this new test and the gold standard together and seeing the results on both. It is concurrently. And predictive validity is first the target test is up and then the gold standard, and we are seeing how good is this in predicting the results. That is, results on blood pressure and cholesterol levels are based on its predictive ability to project the risk of cardiovascular diseases. It is how good is our test predicting an outcome in future. Okay. Construct validity already explained with the content validity. It is the extent in which a set of variables represent the construct that was projected to be measured. That is, the construct was the workplace satisfaction. We are using qualitative methods to identify what the construct is. Then we are identifying the contents to be put into that. Then we get the construct validity. If the construct is actually what is intended to measure, it is the construct validity. And if all the contents inside that, that's what is to be measured, content validity. Okay, then we have something called the non-groups technique. Convergent validity, discriminant validity, also structural or factorial validity, and cross-cultural validity. These are all there in the slides. We can read about this later when you have time. What we need for this class is given in this slide. This slide is important. You have to look at this slide carefully and you have to understand everything is clear. These are the types of validity we need to know. The face validity, content validity. Take it both together. Face validity means a tool that you have developed. Say the depression questionnaire, the PH29 questionnaire, say. Face validity means that tool, does it measure content according to a layperson? That is, if a layperson looks at this tool and he thinks, okay, the questions are okay for this thing, it is called face validity. Layperson could be, say, anyone who is not an expert. Doesn't mean a layperson who doesn't have any knowledge about all these things. It is somebody who is not an expert. Content validity is when the tool measures content according to an expert, that is based on theory. He is using some techniques like the content validity index and all, and he is saying, okay, this tool is actually measuring what is needed to measure. And he is an expert. Then that is a content validity. Criterion validity is the criteria of the tool that matches with the other tools. The other tool, we take it as a gold standard. And when we are checking whether our tool is giving valid values that is same as the gold standard, it is called a criterion validity. Concurrent or convergent validity is when the tool gives similar scores as other tools on the same subjects. We are doing it concurrently and we are getting similar scores. Discriminant validity is another term. You often come across that. That's why I have put it here. It says the tool gives high scores for well people and low scores for sick people. That is, the tool is able to discriminate both. Predictive validity we also already discussed. That is, tool predicts significant differences among different groups. And construct validity is tool measures what it is supposed to measure as an idea or as an abstract concept. And the idea, just think depression in this context. Is the tool we developed to measure depression? Is the construct of depression that we made is true? Okay, these are the validity things you have to keep in mind. And now when we are going through all this, we have now realized that for the diagnostic test, what we are looking at is the criterion value. Okay, so let's focus on criterion validity now. Criterion validity, as we already discussed, we are comparing a test with a gold standard and we are seeing whether the values match. And for that, which are the of four things we discussed earlier for validity and accuracy of diagnostic test: sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value, and negative predictive value. Right. And along with that, you might have some other things also, like the likelihood ratios and all, which is derived from sensitivity and specificity, and ROC curves, which we draw with the positive likelihood ratio and all, which we'll be dealing with in the next session. So now this is the 2x2 table that is the Bible for all your test validity accuracy. Okay. This 2x2 table is the basics you have to keep in mind whenever you are dealing with a new test and a standard test. Okay. In this 2x2 table, we have 4 cells, and the top of the 2x2 table is always the gold standard, which tells us whether somebody is having the disease or not. And the left side gives us the value of the test. Okay. So this is the comparison of our test with the gold standard. The truth is at the top. The truth is what the gold standard tells you, because we assume the gold standard to be totally true. Whatever the gold standard tells you, we take it as the truth. That is, if gold standard tells you you are having tuberculosis, you are having tuberculosis. There is no question regarding that. We take it as the truth. So based on the results of the gold standard, we divide the two patients, all the patients into two sets. That is disease present and disease absent. Is it clear? This slide is very, very important. Everything that is after this slide, all the slides are based on this slide. Okay, so everybody focus fully on this slide. Disease present, disease absent. That because the gold standard said disease present patients as positive. That is why we are saying they are having the disease. This truth is the gold standard test. It gave result as positive, negative. Those who are positive on gold standard, we are taking them as disease present. A and C come in that disease present column. So total number of patients having the disease in truth is A plus C. And those who do not have the disease is given by the disease absent column because they were negative on the gold standard test. They are disease absent, they do not have the disease. That is given by B plus D. So now, listen very carefully. Among these people who are actually having the disease, that is A plus C, we did a test, a new test, and the new test told us that the new test returned the results such that A were positive in the new test and C were negative in the new test. Both A and C are having the disease as per the gold standard. But A were positive in the new test, C were negative. That is how the 2x2 table is split. So A are the true positives because they have the disease and they were told by our test also as positive. So they are the true positives. What about C? Gold standard said they have the disease. So they actually have the disease. There is no doubt regarding that. But our test said that they are negative. Our new test said that they are negative. So those people are the false negatives. That is, who are test negative and disease positive. False negative means they are actually having the disease. How do we know they are actually having the disease? Because the gold standard told us that they are having the disease. They are C, the false negatives. What about D? Gold standard said they don't have the disease. Our new test also said they don't have the disease. So they are true negatives. And what about B? Gold standard said